Buenas tardes a todos. Es un placer estar aquí. So for those of you who cannot see me, I am a female, I have white hair, and I'm wearing a green jacket. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I have been over 30 years working in the marketing world, in the brand building arena, and there are many of the fundamentals that never change. But actually the how changes constantly. And I think this is one of the reasons why we are here today. And I want to start by sharing with you a little bit of a story. First, something that you might know. In the 1950s, there was in P&G a guy called Neil McElroy. And Neil McElroy was very innovative, and he was quite an active guy. He actually was there at the moment where TV was recently invented, and he had the idea to say, hey, well, we have products for all the people. There's television. What if we were to produce content that people would like, and what if we were to place our products in there? And actually, he invented what today you know as soap operas. That's why they're called soap. So he was a very, very creative guy. He actually also invented brand management. He was a guy that actually saw the possibility for Procter & Gamble back then to deliver more growth and more value by having a figure that would actually have a vision for the brand, an ambition for the brand that would sleep, dream, eat, think about how that brand could succeed, and that could coordinate all the research department and the product department and the sales department in order to maximize the growth for the brands. So two very good inventions that Neil McElroy brought to P&G that probably some of you might know. But what you might not know is something that I discovered recently in a podcast I was hearing by a guy called Safi Bahcall, who wrote a book called Loonshot. He actually said that around those dates, President Eisenhower was actually very frustrated because he was not happy with the innovation that his team was bringing along. It was very messy, and he was not advancing the United States as a country as fast as he would have liked to. So what did he do? He brought the private sector, and he brought Neil McElroy. And he asked, hey, Neil, take a look at what we're doing. What advice can you give us? And actually, Neil did a little bit of research, and he actually found out that something similar to what was happening in P&G was happening also at the government. The Navy was not talking to the Army, was not talking to, the silos were not talking to each other. So he introduced the concept of project management into the US government, and actually thanks to that, I was very interested to learn that the DARPA was created out of this initiative counseled by Neil McElroy. Now, this is the IAB. You need to know what DARPA is, right? Please tell me you know what DARPA is? Yes? So DARPA, for those of you who don't know, is the research center of the US that actually created the GPS. DARPANet was the predecessor of Internet, the technology that you have in your cellular today, amongst many other things. So interesting way how the innovation in P&G has traveled all the way to the fantastic contributions that the US has had to the world technologically over the past years. So I will tell you now 3 ways how we are continuing that tradition that Neil McElroy started, and how we are actually, we call it resetting the bar. How we reset the bar in 3 different areas in order to keep on driving value for our consumers and for the company. The first one is in understanding the consumers we serve. For us, consumers is the North Pole. We're famous for the saying, consumer is the boss. And in the past, we used to drive the consumer understanding, getting conclusions about, let's say, groups of consumers, the average consumer. And we would gather insights about what consumers do, what are their habits, and we would listen to consumers, what are their needs. We would actually make conclusions about product needs based on what they would claim, and we would have very lengthy market tests that would give us an idea of a product, would it have a success or not. Fast forward to today, actually, we are always looking at what consumers are looking for, consumer at the center, but we're applying artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the big data that we have available today in order to close the gap between what consumers say, what they mean, and what they do. And that way we become a lot more precise with the products that we are able to design for them. We use this when we do social listening, we have mobile diaries, etc. One of my favorite capabilities that we have used as, as part of the way we're resetting the bar is connected homes that technology allows us to do. So connected homes actually is we have taken like a few houses in different countries in the world, and we have installed sensors on their electricity, on their water, of course, privacy compliant with all the authorizations needed, so that when we go and we explore what consumers have to say, we can also connect it with what they have done in a particular household. So I will tell you a little bit of a story of what we have done with this data. We did this observation for how consumers wash their dishes. And we observed two things. First is that when consumers are using Fairy, this is a love brand in Spain. When consumers are using Fairy, when we realized the last 25% of the bottle was very hard to get out. Consumers were using less product, and therefore the performance was not as delightful as with the first 75% of the bottle. So that was one thing that we were able to observe because of the concentration of soap in the water. And the second thing that we were able to see is that, to observe, is that people were most of the time washing their dishes with very hot water. Partly because it's probably more pleasant for the hands, but also because there was a perception that hot water would help, wash the dishes better. So thanks to that, the Fairy team actually created two initiatives that I'm going to share with you in a piece of communication we did. First, an innovation in terms of packaging, to give a packaging delight that would allow consumers to enjoy up to the last drop of Fairy, and also demonstrated how the great performance of Fairy works even in cold water, which is actually not only good for the product performance, but actually good for the environment as well. The second area I'd like to explore with you is how we are resetting the bar when it comes to media reach, and also ad effectiveness. Also here, in the past, the game was about who would spend the most. Brand growth was driven by who would spend the most, who would have the bigger media plans, who would have the biggest reach, and who would be able to convince with great content the most amount of consumers to buy the product, and of course, great repurchase from great product performance. So those days are over, actually, and today the game is not only who has, of course, the ability to invest, but also invest in a smart way, in a more effective and efficient way. Really finding what that intersection between human creativity, and of course in the advertising that we create, but also leveraging machine learning, artificial intelligence, and everything that is available to us today to help really waste as less possible money as possible, but also to delight consumers even more. So let me illustrate this with an example. This is a brand that in Spain is called Dodo, but in the rest of Europe is called Pampers. You probably have heard of it. So Pampers used to have media plans that would have 70% reach of parents with kids. Okay, 70% reach of parents with kids, but imagine only 5% of parents had kids in diapering age. So what a huge waste, right? So over the years, what we have done is we have refined how we are approaching our consumers. So we start when somebody gets pregnant. They go into the internet and they search, okay, so how many days, months, weeks until I get pregnant, and so they can find Pampers Pregnancy Date Calculator. It's a service that we offer, and it helps us start the conversation with our consumers. And then, the baby starts to grow, and then the conversation starts about what should the name be. So we offer a baby name generator, which allows also consumers to continue getting that, warm-up of experience with Pampers. The baby gets born, and then we offer things like you cannot sleep at night, you cannot put the baby to sleep. We have augmented reality stories that you can use to entertain your baby and to have you recuperate a little bit of that sleep in those particular moments. At one point in time, we also invite our consumers to join the Pampers Club, or the Dodot Club, which is what allows us to, in a very respectful way, in a way that also they get value back, to follow them through the life stages of the baby development in a more relevant way. We use this data, the first-party data, and combine it with other data to create smart audiences that actually target those particular relevant moments for the life of a baby. So when you're new parents, when the baby starts crawling, you need a particular size, when you're doing the potty training, or if you need also for bedwetting. And we don't need to tell this to everybody anymore because we know which stage of the baby's development you're in. And then we use that to do digital advertising, sometimes being able to control the number of frequency, the number of times that consumers see it, so we actually really delight them with the experience. I will share with you the dot copy of Spain that explains how the club works to illustrate better the point. And that's in terms of media. What about the content? One of the things that we have done in the past, we used to test copies. When I was young and I was a brand manager, I used to go and do my copy, place it on a test. It would take me 30 days and $30,000 to test one copy. In the world of today, imagine I'm responsible for Europe. We have 42 countries. I don't know how many brand-country combinations. If we were to test each single one of them, it would be really a lot of money and a lot of time. So we have now the ability to do this actually in a couple of days and with $1,000. We do this with a tool that we have. We call it AI Studio, where we practically show consumers the ad. We're able to move away from the interviewer type, very codified questions, but we just ask, see the ad, tell us your impressions. What did you like? How are you feeling? What did you not like? What do you remember? And we just upload those reactions directly into a database that analyzes, through neural language processing, analyzes the responses and compares it to decades of data that we have because of what we do, that allows us to actually predict the power of the copy to be able to sell, and we give it a score. And then the brand manager goes back and says, how can I improve that score? What did the results tell me? And then they're able to, with very few tweaks and in a very fast and agile way, for TV, but for digital, for all the pieces of communication that we have, they're able to get much, much better, more effective advertising today. I'll share with you one example that the Spanish team who is sitting with me here at the first row, actually, they put it on the AI Studio, and they actually learned, it's a very small thing, but actually it doubled the score in terms of recall of the benefit. They just changed how the supers were displayed on this Pantene copy. The third point is brands for growth and for good. We've all gone through these stages. There was a moment where it was only about the product performance, then it seemed to be only about the purpose. We have come to a place right now where we are very cognizant of the fact that brands need to be growing, they need to deliver great product performance, and at the same time, do good. It's essential for us to be able to grow in order to do good. And that's part of what the company actually, since its inception, we've always been very adamant at making good in the communities where we operate. This is not going to be a surprise for you. So 8 out of 10 consumers, for example, prefer brands that have a strong sustainability approach. And if you take a look at, this is an example of laundry. As I was saying, we used to talk about mostly, okay, this product is, this detergent is good for washing your clothes. It gives you impeccable cleaning. If you tried it, it was very good and better than what you tried before. You keep on buying it. Fast forward to today. What about the impact, the greenhouse effect of a laundry detergent? That's what consumers ask. So if you were to think what is the greenhouse effect, the biggest greenhouse effect of a laundry detergent, what would you say it is? We did a life cycle assessment, very scientific. We identified what would be the biggest contributor to the greenhouse emissions. And we found out actually that it was not the ingredient, it was not the packaging, it was not the manufacturing. Actually, it is the temperature that people use to wash their clothes that gives the biggest impact on the environment. So that's what we did when we intervened to address this opportunity. First of all, our formula on Ariel is particularly designed to perform well at low temperatures, even with very hard stains. And second, we actually made it part of what the brand stands about to help drive the habit for consumers to turn from 40 to 30 degrees on how they wash their clothes. In Spain, I learned that you're already very good. Something happened in history that the average temperature where you wash is 29 degrees, actually, not even 30. So that's great, well done. In the rest of Europe, it's 40 degrees, so we still have a long way to go. We have stopped doing something that would kind of, the product is there, and what else can we do on top? Let's plant some trees, to actually really think about, from the moment that we design our products, what needs to be true for us to deliver great performance at the same time that we are decreasing our carbon footprint. This is an example of something that was done in Greece, actually, where we gave our products to TikTok influencers, and they actually made a contrast between what you would have to do in order to have a sustainable behavior and what you can do with some of our P&G products. Within the brands for growth and brands for good, there's a point that is very, very close to my heart, which is accessibility. There's about 15% of the European population that have viewing and hearing impairments. And we're simply not, as marketers, not catering to their needs. I would like to share with you a couple of examples of how P&G is dealing with it, but actually would like to invite you to participate into this and to take action, because that's something that is within reach from every person sitting in this room. The first one is something we did with our packaging. In the case of Ariel, we designed a package that actually includes, we did a partnership with Navilens. People with viewing disabilities know they have this app in their phone because they use it to go around in the streets. And so when they put it over the package, there's a sound that actually immediately talks about what's inside, what is the product, what is the reference, and what are the ingredients that are in the benefits and the ingredients that are in the product. We also put a sign that allows consumers to be able to understand what is the product that they are buying. So we have been quite intentional, and we're doing this with our packaging, and we also have openly said we have an ambition to actually also make our advertising accessible. We would like to get to 100% accessible advertising. What do I mean with accessible advertising? I mean advertising that can be understood by people with viewing and hearing impairments. And the solution is open and closed caption, or it's audio description. Now, I don't know how many of you have, know what this audio description technique is. So let's do a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and understand what this next piece of communication is about. It's 20 seconds, so please close your eyes. I go. Okay, so what was the product? I'm sure you didn't understand the product, the benefit, anything. So I'm going to show you what the solution is. Whenever we want to be as creative as we are with this type of advertising, which is something that we like doing as marketers, there's a solution to go about it.
Sobre fondo oscuro, una silueta alargada. En el mango de un cepillo eléctrico Oral-B IO, su pantalla muestra varias funciones. Cerdas fluorescentes giran, el mango encaja en la base. Oral-B, la marca número 1 más usada por dentistas en el mundo. Evoluciona a Oral-B IO.
Okay, the audio was not perfect, but I promise you, there was a description of somebody talking over that was explaining what was happening. That's what we call audio description. And actually, I didn't know when we started, trying to make all of our advertising accessible that it would have been so difficult. Open and closed captioning is easier, but the audio description that you saw requires some technical things that need to be done by the publishers, by digital publishers, by TV publishers, that they need to activate. Normally, it's not a big investment, but I've heard many times when we go to the publishers, but P&G, you are the only one that is asking for this. So please, let's raise awareness and let's raise our voice. We want this. We must do this. It's not only good for people to make them feel included, to make them informed about the products that they buy, but actually it will give you immediately 15% more reach of the money that you are investing. So in closing, this is what we're doing, faithful to the heritage from Neil McElroy in the 1960s, continuously resetting the bar. Today and tomorrow, we have a lot of work to be done, going forward, and that's the good thing. We continue resetting the bar on how we understand consumers, how we do media, how we do brands for good and for growth, and the story continues. It is important for me and for all marketers that we really embrace the value that we can create with the work that we do. When we do great marketing, when we do great media, we create value and we create growth for the company, for the community, and for the planet. Thank you so much.